Going into this episode, I was very excited to see how it would turn out. The preview on the Kickstarter looked phenomenal, and me already being a fan of Moro's work, I knew he would cook so hard here. I wasn't sure how an army battle would turn out, but as everyone at this point knows, it worked incredibly. Now, I want to preface something here as we keep going. I care a lot about Death Battle. I donated $700 to the Kickstarter because I knew that this show is something I wanted in my life. I won't really talk about it until I get to the conclusion, but I do have disagreements with some of the things in this episode, and that's okay. I've disagreed with aspects of an episode before, and I'll probably disagree again later, especially if they say Asura beats Kratos. But don't think that comes out of a spiteful place or anything. I just want to state my viewpoints. In any case, let's talk about the first analysis. I think it's really funny that Death Battle gets a Marvel Snap sponsorship right after leaving DC's cold, lifeless grip, but get that bad, dog. Bowser's analysis is ridiculously good. They start by setting the ground rules, a black box explaining that they're only using mainline canon material. Unofficial works like Mario-kun and Smash Bros won't be used here. I personally think it's controversial that they are considering Paper Mario the same canon, but I understand why and it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But please, Death Battle editors, if you're going to blatantly say something isn't going to be used, please don't use footage of it. It's not a huge problem, but don't say you're not going to use Mario-kun as a source, but then use Mario-kun footage to show powers. It kind of leaves the wrong impression. But honestly, I can't have any issues with the editing when it's the highest quality I've ever seen in an internet show. It's absolutely insane how engaging it is. This editing catches your eye and demands your attention in every frame. I mean, not that you wouldn't already be gripped by Bowser's story. Okay, Bowser doesn't really have a story. Well, I mean, he does, but it's very basic. Mario, shocker, isn't known for his story. But the most important note to hit was how Bowser completely loves his people. Bowser is a king that would jump in front of a bullet to save a Goomba, and they show how he treats his troops like family. Just look at how they describe the Koopa kids being adopted, clarifying that adoption doesn't matter to Bowser. They are still his sons. It's such a small moment with Wiz, but honestly, it made me smile just to hear it. They talk about Kamek and Boo quite well too. I'd hoped that they would talk about the difference between them, seeing as Kamek is a loyal soldier who's been with Bowser since he was a baby, and King Boo really doesn't give two shits about Bowser. But I understand that they had a lot of units to go through and the video was already almost 30 minutes long, so there needed to be some details omitted. The rest of the analysis goes over Bowser's power set really well, showing just how fast and powerful he is. But they do kinda overhype some things. For starters, they completely overhype the Wonder Flower's full abilities. When Mario and his crew touch the Wonder Flower, it causes reality to shift in a certain area until a Wonder Seed is obtained. It clearly has an area of effect, since the background of the stages do not get altered at all, just the foreground and then the near ground. When Bowser got the Wonder Flower, it was a bit different seeing as he could just alter the world himself. But I honestly don't think it's as powerful as they stated. You can see Bowser shooting out this weird smoke that needs to touch objects before they can get altered. Normal villagers react to this smoke, so it isn't really that fast, I'd say. And it's not like Bowser can just think of anything and it just happens. He has to hit someone with that smoke. If they're talking about just the basic speed I think the smoke might be, then most of Eggman's army could just avoid getting altered. But I'm getting ahead of myself. They also say that Bowser is comparable to Rosalina, but I don't see that either. Rosalina was able to stop the universe from essentially imploding after Bowser was defeated. I don't think he's ever shown this level of power before. Well, apart from certain items like the Dreamstone, that is. The Star Rod too, almost forgot that. It's not in my notes, but fuck it. The only other time Rosalina has really fought Bowser is when you unlock her in 3D World, and she would canonically win that fight every time while exhibiting far less power than she showed in the Galaxy games. Those are my only gripes with Bowser's analysis though. My complaints are really more of an interpretational difference than those of Death Battle being wrong. I just want to make that really clear. Overall though, one of the best analyses they've ever done. Let's hope Eggman's is just as good. Good news, it's better! I have almost no issues with Eggman's analysis. Both Eggman and Bowser could have more coverage for all of the material there is to cover, and how big their armies are, but again, this would be an hour and a half long if they tried to cover absolutely everything. The way they explain Eggman's creations before getting to Sage, saying that he built and built before finally making something that built on him is incredible. The difference between Eggman and Bowser is that Eggman is far more evil and has way more story. Focusing on Gerald Robotnik, Maria, his hatred for Sonic, and overall all of the cruel things he's done and how he is self-sacrificial with his army. They are literally nothing to him. Except for Sage, that is, and Metal Sonic, of course. They don't cover it in the episode, but Eggman in the comics has shown care for Metal Sonic a lot, even getting mad when Metal gets a little dented and complimenting Metal whenever he can. I wish they went into this more in the episode, because Eggman could be so much more compassionate than people think. Working with Sonic against greater enemies in the past, reflecting with tales about his grandfather in SA2, and so many of the audio logs in Sonic Forces. Just to say, Eggman is evil, way more evil than Bowser, but he has shown compassion, and does do some good things over the course of the series. The only miss I'd say they had was that they didn't ever bring up that Eggman conquered multiple alien planets and colors. They say he almost took over the world once, which is extremely reductive for what he actually did, but that's it. I'm pretty sure he also took over the future in Sonic CD, but whatever, it'd pretty much be the same thing. They cover Metal Sonic, Badniks, and the Egg Robos, as well as Eggman's own piloted mechs really well, focusing on the ones that would really change the debate. Although I will say referring to the Hardboiled Heavies as the leaders of the Badniks is really funny. They're the leaders of the Badniks for like 5 fucking minutes in Sonic Mania and never returned. I see what they mean by it though, since they are giving Eggman everything he could have in the analysis, but I still find it really funny. That's pretty much it for Eggman. For everything I was expecting, they covered him really well, and even kept Wiz sounding excited through the whole analysis, seeing as apparently Eggman is Wiz's inspiration. Also, Ben Singer fucking loves Sonic, so anyone that says that Eggman lost because they hate Sonic is fucking stupid. But enough about all this. How was the fight? This fight is incredible, hands down. I went frame by frame to try to find any details or units that people wouldn't normally see in the background. For Bowser's side, all I really saw was that he was using some of his airships and that there were Koopas riding some clown cars, probably a reference to Mario Maker. For Eggman's side, all I found was E101 from Sonic Adventure, 2 of them to be precise, and some spinners, also from Sonic Adventure. The fight begins by Bowser throwing a wedding for both him and Paper Peach. Some people believe that the Paper Mario games only look like paper from those characters' perspectives, so I'd buy that Bowser would really believe that this paper cutout is Peach. Eggman using this wedding to gather Bowser's whole army is genius because of what his overall plan is. Eggman's plan is to take out Bowser and convert his army using the Metal Virus. We see this in the storyboards with some changed dialogue. In the episode, Bowser says, "What a joke," before Eggman's double comes down in the Egg Dragoon and says, "Get a load of this," which honestly made my whole fucking day after I heard it, I'm not gonna lie. Adventure is one of my favorite games of all time. In the storyboards though, the original line was Bowser saying, "What a joke. Do you know who we are, Chrome Dome?" And Eggman responding with, "My new minions." The storyboards also showed that we were supposed to get the Koopalings in a few scenes. Before we see Bowser attack, we'd see the Koopa Kids do a big team attack on some normal Badniks. Moro has said that the scene was cut for a few reasons, like the time it would take to create all the models for the 7 Koopalings for such a little scene, plus it let him add more Metal Sonic scenes later on, so as sad as I am to see it go, it was a necessary loss. Bowser attacks some robots before going after Eggman himself. Now, I don't mean to keep going back to the storyboards, you should really check them out on your own, but I also prefer this scene in the storyboards. Bowser originally only attacked 2 robots while firing the 3rd shot at Eggman himself, who has to deflect the blast before Bowser directly chases after him. In the episode, he just kills 3 guys and then chases Eggman. From here on out though, almost all of Moro's changes from the storyboards are so much better. Bowser just catches the Egg Dragoon spear and immediately destroys the entire machine in the storyboards, while in the episode Bowser destroys the Gatling gun. Eggman retaliates by shooting 2 spears at Bowser. Bowser is then electrocuted, showing some dryness inside of him, before grabbing the 2nd spear and throwing it back at the Egg Dragoon to destroy it. In Sonic Unleashed, the way Sonic damages the Egg Dragoon is by making its own spears hit its core. Bowser throwing the spears back so hard that it just rips the Egg Dragoon in two is just such a cool way to show Bowser's overwhelming strength while also referencing the game the mech comes from. Bowser then uses an ability from Super Mario RPG to spear both Eggman and his mech. But wait, it's not Eggman. It's a decoy! And Bowser is just so simple-minded that he doesn't even realize that he is getting tricked, which baffles Eggman into revealing his hand early, summoning Infinite to the stage who, in a near-perfect accurate portrayal to his games, does something really cool, making him look menacing and powerful, but then is immediately taken out by the most memed moment of the entire episode. People are mad at this death. Technically yes, Infinite could survive or just dodge this attack easily, but I think it's funny so it's okay. In this scene, Infinite is intensifying gravity, killing a bunch of Bowser's minions including, oh no, King Bomb Bomb, my boy! Bowser is such a good king that he decides to try to save his minions rather than retaliate against Infinite, leading King Boo to laugh at Bowser's compassion while dealing with the situation himself. The fight for the Phantom Ruby is so cute. The elite trio from Bowser's Inside Story try to take the Phantom Ruby after Orbot and Cubot take it from a charge and chuck, before Metal Sonic takes the Phantom Ruby and absolutely stomps the competition. No one can stop him. Bowser, minions, King Boo, all are rendered moot to Metal Sonic's speed and power. The only thing to trip him up was Kamek using Chance Time, just teleporting the gem out of Metal Sonic's hands, which, what was he gonna do about it? Before Metal Sonic gets one of the most intimidating transformations in Death Battle history and kills Bowser. Some people might disagree with him killing him there, but in both the episode and the storyboards, it really seemed like Bowser died. This prompts Eggman to come down to the Death Egg Robo and start his Grandmaster plan, with the only person who could stop the metal virus gone. Eggman says, "You know what they say, the more the merrier," after confirming plans with Sage. Bowser Jr. then uses his black ink on Bowser, causing this beastly transformation to Fury Bowser, who instantly blasts Metal Sonic away and decommissions the Death Egg Robo pretty instantly. Sage uses a force field to try to stop a few attacks before Bowser just overpowers Sage, nearly killing Eggman. You can see him right here, he's fucking terrified. He would have died, if not for Neo Metal Sonic, that is, who now used all 7 Chaos Emeralds to turn super and absolutely knock Bowser around like he was nothing. Both Kamek and Bowser Jr. attempt to stop Metal Sonic, but they are just instantly overpowered and sent flying. Bowser then absorbs a Grand Star after backhanding Metal Sonic for hitting his son, and overpowers Metal Sonic and knocks him out of his super form. Now this is the other Moro change I don't like as much. This whole set of events is pretty different in the storyboards, but Bowser overpowering Metal Sonic's blast goes against what they say in the conclusion later, about how the Emeralds beat the Grand Star in terms of power, but the Grand Star has the advantage of there being more of a supply of stars than Chaos Emeralds. It's not a deal breaker, it's a cool moment in itself, but they've been good about staying true to their own research in their fights. At least the last 3 they've done. And this is the first case of those 3 episodes that I can think of that they actively went against their own conclusion. But in any case, Bowser caused a black hole with his blast, and Eggman's last resort is to send Sage into the Death Egg, firing a massive blast onto Bowser's army, with Bowser using all of his strength to defend his troops, with the Koopa troops standing loyally behind Bowser, knowing their king will defend them no matter what, while Eggman's army runs. I'm not sure how often Eggman's army shows fear, so it's a little strange to see them run away, but I get the intentions on loyalty in the juxtaposition of both their armies. So this was a good bit of choreography on their part. Because of this, Eggman is alone, and Bowser is still backed by his whole army. Eggman attempts to fire the Death Egg again, but Bowser Jr. turns the Death Egg into a giant POW block, with Eggman legitimately concerned for Sage. Just the way he says, "Wait," makes me emotional every time. Bowser then tries to suck Eggman in, and Eggman tries trick after trick to stay alive. But with the backing of Bowser Jr., all of attempts end futile, and he is knocked into space, hitting the yellow POW block and adding another wrong prediction to my record. What an amazing fight. This might be tied with Bill vs. Discord as my favorite episode of the show. Some people may complain about the mech usage in the fight, that he could have used stronger mechs, but these are his 2 most iconic mechs, and Eggman's goal in the fight is to just conquer this area. So bringing out something like the Time Eater would just be like Batman using the Justice League base as a battering ram. They'd never do that because it would go against the entire motivation of the fight. Now, before we get to the conclusion, let's talk about what I'd add to the fight. Now this is pretty hard, because I did script out a whole version of this fight that I wanted to make a video on, but kind of ran out of time before the episode came out. So I'm just going to go with what is in the episode scenes that could be added. Firstly, the Koopa Kids, obviously. I think they are a missed aspect from the storyboards, but I understand why they were cut. I'd add Eggman holding Bowser Jr. hostage at some point, seeing as he is a big fan of doing that in general, and I am not sure how Bowser would react to having his son in immediate danger in front of his eyes. And I'd have Sage watching the battlefield more. Even if they couldn't have her say lines about changing strategies, because they just reused voice lines from the game, it'd be cool to see the armies adapt to what Sage is directly observing. I don't want much, honestly, because I can't really ask for more with such an amazing animation. But let's get to that conclusion. In all fairness, I never let outside knowledge affect my enjoyment of a death battle. I look at everything as a self-contained experience, so most of the complaints or disagreements I have come down to me having a different interpretation of things. The first stat they go over is physical stats. A little weird that they combine strength, speed, and durability into one stat, but it doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. I do agree that Bowser is stronger and definitely more durable, but to equalize their speed is definitely a choice I wouldn't have made. Sure, Bowser is extremely fast, but Eggman can keep up with Super Sonic and still move in the white void that the Time Eater created. It's like saying how Goku got equalized to Superman's speed. Yes, I get their logic by saying they both have proof of incalculable speeds, but quantifiably, Eggman and his troops would far outspeed Bowser's. The star level Yoshi feat is interesting, but as far as I'm concerned, Yoshi has beaten Bowser every time they've had a confrontation, so I don't really think Bowser could be scaled too much higher than that. But that's just me. When talking about their powers, I do agree to an extent that Bowser having access to all of his powers at once is impressive, but Egg Robos, Mecha Sonic Mark II, and Sage can all pilot Eggman's other mechs, meaning that not only could Eggman have all sorts of abilities at one time, he can also use multiple of his abilities at once while Bowser would still only be able to use one, even if he could switch up quickly. This being said though, Bowser has more answers to Eggman's abilities unlike vice versa. I'm of the belief that the Phantom Ruby could reverse the effects of Bowser's dark magic, but I can also buy why someone wouldn't believe that's the case. Eggman can also do a lot for sure, but Bowser can reverse mind control, strengthen his allies, and create illusions to handle Eggman's more general abilities. So Bowser taking this stat also makes sense to me. The intelligence category makes absolutely no fucking sense. They say Eggman is smarter because he builds better things and is rarely outsmarted, but this has absolutely nothing to do with battle smarts. Now, I'm in the camp of believing that Bowser's army could be seen as smarter in terms of battle experience and formation. Just because Eggman has shown some battle smarts, it usually comes with a lot of prep time. Now that being said, with Sage being able to run millions of calculations at once, I can see her changing battle strategies and ordering formations of troops to continuously adapt to Bowser's army. So in terms of intelligence, I think that that's the reason Eggman would win this category. Calling the trump card category also tied makes a lot of sense as well. In this unrealistic scenario where they have every bit of equipment they've ever had, there's just too many ways each person could instantly kill the other. Bowser's Dreamstone, Star Rod, and Wonder Flower can contend well with Nightmare Eggman, Super Eggman, and the Time Eater. I will say again though, they are massively overplaying the Wonder Flower. Yes, it can affect a large area under Bowser's control, but I'm still of the belief Bowser would have to hit him with that smoke to instantly transform him. And Eggman and his army would just be too fast to hit. The army category is one I full stop disagree with. With the logic in the episode, their conclusion makes sense, but they greatly downplay Eggman's forces. First of all, why does the egg carrier look like that? What footage did they take for this? Secondly, the amount of times Eggman's alliances have failed has absolutely no bearing on how his robots would interact with him. So even though they bring it up multiple times, it's just a red herring. They say that Eggman's army is designed to listen to only him, but earlier we learned that both Sage and the hard-boiled heavies can also control his army, meaning that this notion is just wrong. Sage could absolutely command Eggman's army and come up with strategies to defeat Bowser's army, even with Kamek and King Boo. This is another interpretational take, but I don't think King Boo can control Sage in any way. Her AI is sentient and isn't as simplistic as EGA's technology. They just aren't comparable in my eyes. I don't think there's anything anyone can do to Sage in this fight. But likewise, all Sage can do, if you don't give her the Titans, is strategize and come up with ways to defeat Bowser's army. Kamek is broken, yes, but Metal Sonic as well as a bunch of other units can outspeed and just take Kamek out, seeing as he's just kind of a glass cannon, compared to the other bigger units in Bowser's army. Being able to steal and swap items would also only really matter if they were smart enough to identify Eggman's more stronger weaponry, which I don't think they are smart enough to do. They bring up two things I find weird. They bring up the size of Bowser's army, which doesn't matter because we don't know the size of Eggman's army. Sure, Bowser's army took over some galaxies, but these galaxies are way smaller than the planets and Sonic Colors that Eggman took over. And we can see that Bowser's army is spread really thin, maybe seeing about 15 to 20 units per mission in the Mario Galaxy games. They seem more like an inconvenience to the inhabitants of these galaxies than they do the new rulers. So again, I just kind of see this as another red herring. The second thing is the combination of Bowser's minions using power-ups makes sense in theory, but again, at least from my perspective, Eggman would outgun and outsmart most of the Koopa troops, so these power-ups wouldn't really make a difference. Plus, we have things like the Egg Bishop from Sonic Heroes, who has the ability to heal injured robots, meaning that even if they did get burned with a fire flower or frozen with an ice flower, Eggman had a way to repair his troops without ever lifting a finger himself. This leans into the biggest sin of the entire episode, saying Sage couldn't calculate ways that the Titans could be defeated. This is outright false. Sage was forbidden from using Sonic in any of her calculations because Eggman forbade it. When Sage did add Sonic to her calculations, she was able to defeat the End, a being that was literally meant to be an unkillable conceptual being. Sage could without a doubt adapt to Bowser's army quick enough to counter any power-ups they can use. With that and things like King Boo's hat and Kamek's staff being clear ways they use their powers, I think it's safe to assume they would know how to disarm them and take away a big advantage. I think Eggman's units should have without a doubt been strong enough to take this category and change the verdict of this matchup. Not to mention they completely overlooked Sonic Shuffle, which also would have increased Eggman's scaling while also giving Eggman similar abilities to Kamek, using the gems from that said game. I'm still in the belief that Eggman should have won this, but honestly, I'd still give this episode an A+. Look, I loved almost every bit of this episode, even though I had disagreements. But that's okay. I love versus debating. It's why I'm always open to debating in my comments when people disagree with me. Finding new information and coming to new conclusions is so fun for me. And that's the main reason I even revived this channel to talk about this. This is one of the best episodes Death Battle has ever done. And agree or disagree, I think everyone can come away from this thinking how amazing this fight was. Now, before I finish this video, I want to do a little redux on Joker vs. Giorno. In my review, I gave it an A. I now walk back on that a bit and I'm lowering it to a B+. I realized they didn't bring up Joker or Giorno's specific relationships even though they really matter to their stories. And they didn't bring up Giorno's weakness to ice anywhere, meaning that when Joker uses Jack Frost, I can understand why some Persona fans would be like, wait, that move doesn't nullify anything. But I'm mostly lowering it for any lack of mentoring Bucciarati or any of Giorno's allies, who are the basis and life of his story. I kinda rushed that review out because I wanted to strike the irons while they were fresh in my brain, but I should have waited to fully collect my thoughts and feelings. That's why this review is coming out a bit later than the episode's release date. In any case, I disagree and still absolutely love Bowser vs. Eggman. And I'll see you guys for my reaction of Among Us vs. Fall Guys this next Monday. Hopefully I get this out before the reaction of Fall Guys vs. Among Us. Take care, y'all.